So this guy that you meet, Leon Fatboy Brown, he kind of changed your life when you came home.
I wouldn't say that.
In terms of elevating you in the drug game, though.
No, I wouldn't say that. I was already good. You know, trying to say my brother, when I first came home, I started with my brother Kite again.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And he had a building on 129th. Everybody know about the spots on the spot on 129th. And I had an 8-hour shift. You know what I'm saying? So in an 8-hour shift, I probably do like a whole joint and have a few bags left over out of that joint. Wow. So you know what I'm saying? That's on an 8-hour shift because we kept a line all the way around the corner. You know what I'm saying? Only one that wasn't really popping was the last shift, the night shift. You still had a heavy crowd, but it wasn't that type of crowd where you got to have 2 or 3 people in the building, you know what I'm saying, pushing, you know what I'm saying, 2 or 3 people pushing them lines like that. You know what I'm saying?
So you sell a whole key in a shift?
8 hours.
Wow.
I have like 4 or 5 bags left over.
And those are in like nickel vials or?
Nickels.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So tens of thousands of transactions a week.
Right.
Unbelievable. Yeah. And were you supervising the pitchers, the people actually passing the crack through the door and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you had to look out and you had the pitchers.
And so you were making good money working with your brother, working with Kite?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, back then, I right now, I can't tell you what none of that money I was making with. You know what I'm saying?
Nobody can.
Like when I got it, it was spent. You know what I'm saying? I started out trying to hang out with him when I first came home. But I was like, man, I'm not really into no party scene and, you know what I'm saying, dressing up like that. So, you know, every day, every Friday, I had to go buy me a suit, shoes, the long coat, top coats. So that was costing because you got to remember back then, his suits was like $1,500, $2,000. So I'm trying to keep up with him out of my pocket. I was like, man, I'm not doing that too. I went a few times to like Red Parrot or something like that with him. And I was like, nah. So, but when I say the money was, the money, I didn't know where the money was being spent because, you know, when I came home, I slept 30 days on the couch, but I moved to Parkchester. See, when I left the streets in the early 80s, Parkchester was the place to be in the Bronx. You know what I'm trying to say? If you ain't stay in Jersey, Parkchester, it's like a little city, got Macy's and all that stuff right there, all the eateries and all that. So I moved there. I'm not knowing that Parkchester is not Parkchester no more. You know what I'm saying? It's like high crime now. You know what I mean? So when I move up there, every time I park my car, it was stolen. So I had to move from there to move to Jersey. So that's when I moved to Jersey, start moving to Jersey. But like I said, I don't know where the money went because I go to every day I was just buying clothes because I didn't catch up on clothes. So I go to 25th Street, I probably buy like 2 or 3 outfits. You know what I'm trying to say? Sometime I buy a piece of jewelry or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Then I want to have I have like anywhere from like $1,000 to $2,000 in my pocket just to spend. You know what I'm trying to say? Because you got people selling shit on the street. Yeah. You might want to take a girl out. And then, you know, Harlem girls wasn't cheap back then, even they was young. You know what I'm trying to say? They still was wanting, like, you know what I'm saying, back then they want to go to the rink. So you got to at least give them like $500 to $1,000 because they want a leather jacket. You know what I'm trying to say? They want some Edwin jeans, some 5411s. You know what I'm saying? You know, or they probably want a down coat. So it was expensive back then. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Women are really the reason that men do everything, all the good and the bad, aren't they?
I mean, you know, I had my share, you know, of, you know, even when I was a kid. But, you know, like I said, my girl at that time before I got locked up, her first car was a BMW 325. You know what I'm trying to say? And this was around the time where dudes that was hustling couldn't even afford one of those joints. You know what I'm trying to say? Her ring that I put on her finger was a solitaire. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't no chipped up diamonds like they buying there. It was a solitaire diamond, a big diamond. So if you look at my younger pictures and you look on her finger, it's a solitaire big ass rock on her finger.
It was impossible for you guys to know, but I always ask this question to people that came from this era. Did you realize how exceptional the times you were living through were?
Like what do you mean?
Like, think about this. You were born into abject poverty, especially by like American standards. And everybody was living in the ghetto but you had millions of dollars in this underground economy being passed around this small little city every single day. Like, that will probably never happen again. Like, I was broke. I was broke coming from a middle-class family in Portland, Oregon. Like, I didn't have any I had to like mow lawns and do chores to get like $50 a week. There was no opportunity for us to like I used to be jealous when I would hear about, you hear in rap, like, wow, these like young black kids from the hood, they get all this money. Like, what about us? Now, of course, we know that that's long term, that's a destructive force. But like at 23 years old, when you're moving like a key, a shift, like, did you realize like the opportunity that this money could bring to you long term, or were you still not thinking like that?
Nah. I mean, back then, I didn't, I guess that the crack era, they didn't have the same mentality set as the people in the 70s. And then again, you got to realize the people in the 70s, they probably just was on a thinking thing where they had so much money, they just had to just buy, because, like I said, you had, like when I looked at the Nicki interview and I seen that he owned a lot of bars, car wash, and all the rest of that stuff. So I realized he had to put that money into something.
Right.
But at the same time, you get in the 70s, they had buildings you can buy for $1. You know what I'm trying to say? Right. So you probably spend a couple like 50 to 100. It was cheap back there to fix it up. So you probably spend money on buying laundromats or fix that up real quick off of your money just to, because you don't want $2-3 million sitting in your house.
Right.
But me to myself, I'm looking at it as, I got me a couple of like 200,000-300,000 in the house. I'm not trying to go buy no building or nothing like that. I want to see my money sit there. You know what I'm trying to say? I like seeing my money sit there. So, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You guys weren't as good at like investing.
Right.
You didn't have the Warren Buffett mentality. God, if he could have just come down there and talked to you guys, you could buy half of Harlem. You would have been the landlords today.
But I just think it was more of we was just trying to be with those dudes in the 70s with the big medallions, the fly cars, and the girls and clothes and all that stuff. And it was like Harlem is more of a competing thing. You know what I'm saying? So you see this dude bust out with a car. Oh, I'm going to bust out with a car. I learned from my brother about certain things like that because he used to tell me, yo, why would you go buy a car for what I'm trying to say, back then a BM was like 30,000, 325 with 30,000. He was like, why would you go buy that BM on that 300ZX for 30,000? Without having that 30,000, you know what I'm saying? Why would you know what I'm saying? If that's the case, have that 2 times over what you're spending.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But me, I'm like, man, I just did 5 years. I'm gonna enjoy this money. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay, so how did working with your brother Kite and working these crack spots when you first come home, how did that evolve into meeting Fat Boy later on?
Because Kite went to jail.
Okay.
So what happened was me and Fat Boy used to we used to trade connects. Like if I couldn't find nothing, you know what I'm saying, or he couldn't find nothing, or if he got something, he'd lend it to me and I'd pay him off like that just to move our shit. But at the same time, how we met is that, we found out that he went to school with me, but, he was like a quiet dude in school. So, I really didn't take notice to him. But he had a spot that was doing good. And I had came to that block with my friend Danny that used to live in that block. So when I came to that block, he said he had somebody that could sell some drugs for me. So, now I'm looking for certain spots for me to move my beside the other spots that I had. And when I got there, I met this kid named Terrell, you know what I'm saying? And he was one of the dudes that I hit off, you know what I'm saying, with some grams like that. But him and Dame Dash was working at the time, you know what I'm saying? Was together at the time. So that's how I met Dame and him at the same time. But I used to sit him in Fat Boy building. You know what I'm saying? When I used to sit him in Fat Boy building, say he'll sell out and they go to re-up, I'm like, yo, go ahead in there. And he'll go in there and he'll sell the shit out of there until they come back. But so when he found out what was going on, he wasn't going to beef with Terrell, but when he found out it was me, he don't know me. So he went and got this dude named Black, that's on my case too. And Black was like, yo, that's such and such and such. So that's how me and him was introduced. You know what I'm saying? But that wasn't the beginning of the relationship. We started speaking and started talking at that time. But the relationship formed, like, once you meet somebody, if you see him somewhere, you hang out with them, you know what I'm saying? Whatever like that. But one time I was going to the rooftop and I seen him on 145th, like right on the corner of Willie Burgers. And I seen him with his coat on, but I see this car parked. So I pulls over. When I pulls over, I'm like, yo, what's up? He was like, yo, man, he's just robbed me. I'm like, what? I'm like, yo, what? So he said, yo, they was walking up this way. I'm like, yo, get in. Because I used to carry a 22 Tech with a screen under my War Ridge back then. So anyway, I was just came home. I was still, gun ho, like, you know what I'm saying? So I put him in my car and we went from from 45th Street stops at Lenox Avenue and then go to Bradhurst. So we went through driving each down back and forth from them to Bradhurst to Lenox, going through each block. So when we get to 149th, we see some dudes standing there. And when we pulled up, he was like, yo, there they go right there. I'm like, man, I went to school. I went to IS-10. IS-10 is right up that way. So I said, I went to school with these. So when they see me get out, they like happy, yo, flew you home, blah, blah, blah. We kicking it. But when they see him get out, they put the face on like, what the So, you know what I'm trying to say? I was like, yo, this is such and such and such. So they wound up giving a coat back in the jury, but he had like $1,500, $2,000 in his pocket. I was like, yo, they got to keep something. So they kept the money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you took it back. You could have robbed all of them for everything.
Right.
But you were like, no, what's fair is fair. You guys keep the cash.
You know what I'm saying? But I knew them from going to school.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I was like, wow. So we shook hands and we was out of there. But that was the form. That was the
right.
That formed the bond of our
relationship. Because this guy, Fat Boy, according to the book, he was kind of a nerd, and he really wasn't a gangster. He was just a good drug dealer. And it sounds like you guys kind of made a good team because he really knew how to move the work, and you knew how to enforce and manage, and you were the tough guy.
Right.
And it sounds like a lot of guys were like that. A lot of big time drug dealers were not gangsters.
Well, I'm gonna say it like this. Once we got our connect, he was more diplomatic than me. You know what I'm trying to say? Me running the streets, even from a kid, they knew me as that person. You know what I'm trying to say? So if you talk to somebody, they'll tell you, I ain't never changed since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. I'm the same way. So robbing, stealing, whatever. So, a lot of people, even people that was cool, it wasn't a trust in me like that. With him, it was more of a trust. You know what I'm saying? So they can come buy a key from him for 22, you know what I'm trying to say, whatever they're going to pay for it, and it's cool, or he can give it out, but they know they're going to pay because of me. But at the same time, my money came from spots. His money came from his one spot, but he was, he mostly wholesale. So he was good at that. So the thing about it, when we got it, you know what I'm trying to say, got the connect, that was like, he knew how to move it faster than me until I went to start going out of town. You know what I'm saying? So when I started going out of town, you got to remember, they was buying ounces for like 15 when the ounce was like $500, $400 in New York. You know what I'm trying to say?
So you're killing them.
Right.
You're almost, and what are you paying on a kilo from your connect?
Like back then we was paying like 15 when it was going for 22.
Wow, that's
what I'm trying
cheap.
to say.
And
but out of town, they was buying, like, you can sell a whole key for 28 and they still think they getting, because it was out of town, like Alabama, Carolina back then. You got to remember, we coming out the 80s when that is coming out like that. Unless you had a real plug down there, you wasn't getting no money like that. If you're a regular Joe on the street and trying to get some money, you're gonna go with them prices because of the money you make out there.
And you virtually opened up the New Orleans crack market.
Yeah,
you owe an apology to New Orleans for flooding that town.
When I first went out there, they didn't know they didn't even know what crack was. Yeah, I mean, they knew what crack was, but the police didn't know what it was.
Right.
You know what I'm trying to say? They'll see it and think it was some soap or something like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But they hustle different than us. They don't put their stuff in bottles. You know what I'm saying? They sell it out their hands. Like whatever piece you want, they'll break it off and sell it to you.
Yeah, insane. So you kind of organized, you found like a crew of guys, right? But and you put them on with a pack?
When I look back on the New Orleans, it was easy to come out there and be the man because what they was working in the projects, it was like, this is the dude that, getting money as the man out there. I'm like, damn, man, he was only working in that. So when I started giving it to him for like $1,000, $1,100 like that, you know what I'm trying to say? Because that's all it was dealing with was ounces down there.
Right.
So when we got out there with the heroin was still going out there too. Going out there good too.
So you could get a key for 15 in New York and dump it.
No, you can't go. You're going to pay at least 22 at that time.
Okay, but you could still wholesale it out of town for 30, 28, 30.
Right.
And it's moving. So and by the way, who was your connect?
We had some Colombians out of Queens.
Really?
Yeah.
Because wasn't that rare for black guys in the 80s to have Colombian connects? Like usually they dealt with Dominicans.
Yeah, but
they were the middlemen.
Dominicans, everybody dealt with Dominicans off the hill. And they sold a bunch of garbage. You know what I'm trying to say? Because even when we used to go up on the hill to get when we ain't had work, I'll go up there at 12 o'clock. I wouldn't get out of there until like 8 o'clock. They running all over the place trying to get what I want because they can't supply it. So you got Dominicans up there. They probably be 40 Dominicans working off of one key up that joint.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then the joint will always be wet, different colors and all that stuff like that. So you just really get that to hold you down. But you know what I'm saying?
So they were really just middlemaning. You could just go around those guys if you met a Colombian, and then you never have to deal with Dominicans.
No, you ain't. I mean, after that, I never dealt with them over there up there, period. You know what I'm trying to say? Unless I had to go up there. And then when I did go up there, I just grabbed what I could grab and I'm out of there.
Right.
You know what I'm trying to say? I really never really dealt with them. But back in the days, we used to sell shit up there like jewelry or something like that. Back in the days, they had the same thing going on, but you had a lot of bars that was on the hill that sold coke. Straight up coke. Yeah. It wasn't no crack thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Was it difficult to meet a Colombian connect? Being from Harlem?
Hell yeah, it was difficult. It's difficult to meet a connect, period. You know what I'm saying?
Like because that seems like that's the key to coming up in the game. Black people
ain't too trusted. You know what I'm trying to say?
No.
They're a Colombian rather deal with a Dominican than to deal with, you know what I'm trying to say? It's not trusted. But if they know you got some money and you're going to put up some money, that's a different story.
You're right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Did you make that connect, that Colombian connect, or was that Leon?
Nah, we both did.
Okay. What were you guys picking up?
Huh?
What was the re-up? What did that look like?
I wasn't really, once I established a certain thing, but I had collect a few money for money that was owed to them. I wasn't really dealing with them. I met them a few times, but I wasn't really dealing with them.
But I mean, how much were you guys buying? Like at a time? Would you pick up a couple of birds or?
Yeah, I remember the first time that we ever got into it like that. I was collecting money. I was running up in certain dudes that was in the ledger that owed us some money. I would catch them like at the garage, or I knew who they was and be like, yo, you owe this certain money. So most of them was like, yo, look, I ain't got no problem with paying the money, but yo, you still, most definitely. So Fat Boy was more diplomatic on that side right there. But I remember the first time I came up, he called me. He had beat me and told me, yo, look, come up to the crib. So when I come up, he was cooking up. He was like, go to the living room. And I looked in the living room. And I looked and I'm like, what the living room? So it was some boxes on the table. He was like, look in the boxes. So when I look in the boxes, you had the whole keys and you had the half keys, the real slim ones. You know what I'm saying? That was coming flat, and you had the big one. I'm like, yo, this ours? He was like, yeah. I'm like, I'm happy now. You know what I'm saying? You know?
Wow. So you guys were buying, he was picking up like multiple keys at a time.
It's a different era. I mean, the Colombians hustle different. You know what I'm trying to say? They'll work anywhere from 6 months to 8 months out of the year, and the rest of the months you got to fend for yourself.
Right.
So most of the time when we hustling during the winter, we don't buy nothing, no cars, no nothing. We just hustle, even if we got to wear the same clothes 7 days just to hustle.
Right.
But we try, whatever money we do, we just push it.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever left over, that's what we have for ourselves. But sometimes we used to run out before they even get back. So we have to go on the hill and mess with the Dominicans.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So you're getting keys and you start moving them out of town. How many different spots throughout the East Coast were you dropping product off to?
Well, me, myself, I was the only one that was out of town hustling. We went to Delaware, Carolina, Virginia, Newport, Virginia. We went to another hustle in D.C., Georgia. We went to Alabama and New Orleans.
Because later on, it's important because later on, the government basically, Janet Reno, who's the United States attorney by this time, she can't pin the death penalty on you. They have to drop it in New York. But she reaches out to all these other states where you're implicated in doing work in and says, hey, and she reaches out to the assistants, U.S. attorneys of those states and say, hey, if you want to take a shot at Lou, God bless you, do your best. And Alabama is the one who ends up trying you for murder there. So that's why it's important that we understand, because this comes into how your story kind of climaxes.